everybody, and welcome back. Good to talk to all of you again today. And first things first, before I get started with the Kronshtadt video, I do want to apologize for the video yesterday where I put in a bunch of codes, but I forgot to mention that they were one-time use codes, and a lot of people spent probably a lot of time trying to input their codes and didn't get anything, so I do apologize for that. You know, I'll have to think of something. Maybe I'll make it up to all of you guys with the other camo giveaway. So I will think on that. Alright, anyways, let's take a look at the Kronshtadt. First things first, before I get started, please keep in mind that this ship is a work in progress. Anything and everything that I show here can and potentially will change, and I hope it actually does change by the time the ship makes it out to release. And why is that? Because the last time I looked at the Kronshtadt, I was like, this is going to be a pretty strong ship. What has changed? Well, the first major change, and a really significant one, was they dropped her HP pool from the 80,000 range down to 59,800. Now, there's a twofold effect here. One, she's a lot less bulky. She's a lot less able of taking damage. And second, of course, it also impacts her repair party, because repair party is percentage based on the max HP. So Kronshtadt has lost a lot of her bulk, and now when she takes damage, especially from battleships, it really hurts because, you know, in the past where it might have been like 1/8 or maybe like, you know, 1/7 of your HP, now we're talking 1/4 of your HP gone. So that's quite substantial. But let's take a look at her armor profile as well and, you know, talk a little bit about her survivability. In terms of her armor profile, she has one major weakness, and I did mention this before. 25mm everywhere. Bow 25mm, main deck is 25mm, stern area 25mm. This means that every battleship you're going to face, pretty much tier 7 upwards, wherever the ship is going to run into enemy ships, they are going to be able to overmatch you, those big battleships. And every time they overmatch you, you're taking huge chunks of damage. We're talking 10,000 plus. And that makes, like I said, that HP pool really, really important. I kind of mentioned that the last time I looked at her. I was like, well, you know, this is a weakness, but hey, at least she had the HP pool. Now she doesn't have that anymore. So not very good. Her armor profile in itself, aside from that particular weakness, is actually okay. If you take a look at her Citadel armor, for example, her Citadel armor is actually not bad, and I'll show you why. Hold on, let me get down there. Here we go. You'll notice that she has sort of that French cruiser thing, where she's got that 90mm internal Citadel backing, and then on the outside, let me see if I can find that outside layer again. Oh, there we go. On the outside, she's got 230mm belt. So those two combined together, if she's well angled, you're gonna struggle to get into that middle section of the Citadel. However, do keep in mind that there is a chunk here. I'll show you this one. Oop, let me get rid of that for a second. I think it's in this layer. Yep, there's a layer here, 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 and here, which if you angle incorrectly like this and a shell hits you like right there, you can still get citadeled. So, you know, her armor profile, aside from that very obvious weakness of these 25mm plates everywhere, is actually okay, I would say. However, the 25mm, when you're running to battleships, because you are a big ship, right? And battleships are going to shoot at you. You are a big ship. If they shoot at you, they just have to land hits somewhere on your deck, somewhere in the front or the back, and you're eating damage because you get overmatched, and it's painful. Torpedo damage reduction, surprisingly, is very good on the Kronshtadt, 36%. Wow, you know, I'm impressed. Torpedo damage reduction is actually quite good. Okay, so that's her survivability aspect, and she, I think, needs some help there. Either that's sort of returned to either the original HP, or at least, you know, move the HP somewhere to the high 60s, maybe into the 70k range, for her to feel maybe a little bit better. But aside from that, the other thing that is really not good is actually her guns. Now, her guns are a bit of a mixed bag. They have very, very high velocity, and they get downrange in a real hurry. So you don't have to lead targets all that much downrange. But on the other hand, I mean, I've sort of mentioned this before when I last looked at the Kronshtadt. I said, well, high velocity guns tend to have a vertical dispersion problem. So I was thinking, hey, you know, they classed her as a cruiser. If she has kind of crappy vertical dispersion, but has pretty good horizontal dispersion, she's still going to be an okay ship. Unfortunately, that did not turn out to be the case. Not only does Kronshtadt have vertical dispersion problems in the way that Roma has, she also has horizontal dispersion problems. Right now, she's got 225 meters at 18.2 kilometers, and that is with the accuracy upgrade installed. And that's not good at all, because if you compare that to Roma, which, you know, a ship not well known for its accuracy, you'll notice that Roma has 227 meters horizontal dispersion, 18.1. So Kronshtadt is pretty much in that same category, I would say. Not very good. Her salvos are very inconsistent, and unfortunately, this combined with the fact that you really do need broadside targets to do good damage. When your guns are inconsistent, it's like Roma, right? You get those broadsides, you're like, yes, I can finally do good damage, and like your shells just go short, long, up, not where you wanted to aim them, and you end up walking away with like maybe a 4K, 5K salvo where you should have gotten maybe a 12K, 13K salvo. So there's a lot of disappointment with her guns, and I played with Kronshtadt yesterday, and the guns just drove me crazy. I can even accept, honest to God, I could even accept the 25mm everywhere weakness if the guns actually performed. So, what are the solutions for the guns? I would say maybe better horizontal dispersion, maybe sigma increases. Right now the sigma is like 1.8, which is in itself not a huge issue if the dispersion was actually okay, but right now the dispersion is just awful, so 1.8 is not enough. So maybe better sigma, 2.0, 2.05, sort of in line with other cruisers. Her base reload of 20 seconds can be made better with the upgrades, or you can opt for range, bumping the range from 18.2 to about 21.1. Really, that's sort of a decision that you have to make based on your own playstyle. I've tried both of them. There were times where the reload was nice, there were times where I wish I had a bit more range, there were times where range was nice, but I wish I had a little bit more reload. So, you know, both of those upgrades can be workable, and depends a lot on your style of play. Alright, her HE is just anemic, so really Kronstadt's depending on her AP. 25% fire chance, 4200 HE damage is not a lot. And like I said, you know, had the dispersion been more consistent, and going AP only would have been acceptable, and you know, with the occasional HE, but with the dispersion the way it is, no way. Moving on to her AA, Kronstadt's AA is enough for self-defense, enough to protect herself, because she does have access to defensive fire, but don't expect to protect anyone else. A big contrast to the current data we have for Stalingrad, which is just like god tier AA. Kronshtadt, no such thing at all. One quick thing to kind of go back on and just to correct, I did have flags equipped earlier, so that 25% fire chance actually with flag equipped, although no demolition expert skill, so I apologize for that. And of course, you probably noticed there was a change to the maximum speed as well, as I did have a speed flag attached. But I took it off just to go back to sort of base numbers. Okay, so maximum speed 33.5 knots. Pretty fast ship. Throw on a speed flag and go 35, so she can get around in a hurry. Relatively maneuverable for a ship this size, 840 meter turn radius, 11.9 second rudder shift, yes. So all those things are alright. Concealment's okay too, 11.3 with the concealment expert skill and the concealment upgrade. So reasonably stealthy for, again, a ship this size. She can get to places. She can get on the side of ships, and like I said, the problem is you fire and maybe you get citadels, maybe you get a good damaging salvo, or maybe you get nothing. Problems with the Kronshtadt really sort of stem from the lack of survivability, causing you to play a little bit more conservatively and stay a little bit further away, and to the fact that her guns are just so unreliable. Those two things combined together, and she really does struggle. I think in all the games I've played with her, just even trying to get to 100k damage was a struggle, which I've played other tier 9 cruisers, never had that problem. So Kronshtadt in dire need of some help right now. And finally, last things to sort of keep in mind, she does have access to the October Revolution style damage control party. Kind of useful times, kind of not, so nothing really all that special. Has access to the FAA, has access to hydroacoustic, has access to spotting plane, has access to repair party. No radar, though, on this ship. And so, really, that's all that I have to talk about of the ship in port. So let's take a look at her performance in battle, which, mind you, you're going to notice it's going to be painful. And, you know, I'll give you my thoughts there. Alright, so initially the plan was to take one battle out of the many battles I played with her. I think I played maybe close to like 20 battles now. I even slept on it and played some more today just in case that there was some sort of bad RNG or I was just getting annoyed with the ship. So tried it, and yeah, similar problems. At times, Kronshtadt can be really interesting. Like I said, she is a cruiser with big guns that can occasionally do some really nice amounts of damage. And you will be able to Citadel battleships that are giving you broadside. I've hit Iowas for double Citadels. I've hit battleships hard. You know, and with your very nice concealment, you can actually get onto those flanks to get those flanking shots. The problem is consistency, and the Kronshtadt is severely lacking in that department. Like I said, broadside ship, and 1 minute you might have yourself Citadel, double Citadel, 20k salvo, and the very next salvo you could be looking at like 2k damage. Where, for a ship that requires this much work to get onto a flank, to be able to put in those flanking shots, the inconsistency kills it. And Roma has very similar problems too. For those of you who remember Roma, right? I personally bought the ship because it was a collector's thing, and I was like, yes, I want to have it as a collector. That's it. I would never recommend the Roma to someone who isn't a collector. Someone saying, hey, I want a nice tier 8 battleship. I would not recommend the Roma. It's a ship that has too much of that inconsistency frustration factor to it. And that's not only against battleships. This is against cruisers as well. Sometimes you will get those beautiful salvos in, and you're able to nail cruisers. By the way, shell travel time is really nice. I wasn't joking about that. The shells do travel very, very quickly, and you can catch people by surprise. So this was a pretty decent salvo. There you go. I take out the Neptune. And then you'll see me show you a later clip where I had a stationary, well, pretty much stationary DM. I fire a salvo. I think I get 3 over penetrations. It's like the most aggravating thing. Another salvo here in against this Kutuzov. Okay, that wasn't bad. Couple of penetrations, just under 10k damage. That's alright. Not the worst salvo I've had with the Kronshtadt. But yes, all in all, one really big problem you have is just that inconsistency. And by the way, like, see, you can, on occasion, get very beautiful salvos, and that makes you happy. And now it's time, of course, for me to show you the times when she doesn't behave, and those times will, if you do play the ship, will drive you completely nuts. So this is why I'm saying I'm very, very glad the ship is currently in the work in progress state. Because if she wasn't in the work in progress state, oh boy, yikes. I mean, my current opinion on the ship is that she definitely needs some CPR. Definitely needs some help, right? And like I mentioned earlier, the help can come in from either more consistent guns, so adjust the horizontal dispersion, adjust the sigma, make the guns consistent, and leave the HP as it is, and that is okay too. Or give her back that bulk that she had before, right? When she was in that 80k range, this was one very bulky cruiser. Sure, she was still kind of vulnerable at times to those overmatched shots, but she at least had the HP, and if she was up against cruisers, she could bully them. Right now, with the HP pool that she has, yeah, if you run up against cruisers, they are going to bully you because they can just HE you down very, very quickly, and not too much you can do because your HP is just that much smaller, and you're not going to be able to absorb those shots as well. Here's another example of that inconsistency that I was talking about. There's a Baltimore, pretty much broadside, and somebody else is actually going to hit that Baltimore really hard, and Baltimore is pretty much going to get deleted by that other salvo, and so my shells are pretty much just going to go in and secure the kill. you could even hear my reaction when I was recording that. I was just like, oh, what the hell was that? Continuing on a little bit, like I said, you do occasionally have good salvos. So Kutuzov comes out, and Kutuzov's pretty much full HP. That's a pretty nice dispersion salvo there. You can see it. Nice and tight, and I get a good chunk of damage out of that, right? 5 penetrations, 2 overpens, good amount of damage. Even though I didn't see the number, you can, if you go back and check the damage counter, this goes up, you know, a nice, good salvo. And then, just a little bit later, against that exact same Kutuzov, you'll see. And, like, frustration. That's the unfortunate thing with the Kronshtadt right now, is just frustrating. See, I chunked that Kutuzov nice. Okay, it's almost dead, 4,000 HP. It's pretty much stationary. I line up the shot, and I am going to take it, and with like that amount of HP, even shells going to superstructure should kill it, right? Obviously not, because I haven't made enough offerings to the god Stalin, and his hand did not guide my shells. Anyways, Kronshtadt for you in a nutshell. Inconsistency is name of the game, and it will drive you crazy. Like, absolutely guarantee you. These guns will drive you mad. One final example, because this one I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. Look at this Des Moines. Full broadside, not maneuvering, not turning into me, not angling, not anything. I'm on the flank. This should be a glorious deletion. 4 overpens, sorry. But I thought it was 3. It was 4. 3,600 damage. Yeah, that's pretty much Kronstadt's problem in a nutshell. It's just really, really inconsistent, and it will drive you mad. Kronshtadt, like I mentioned earlier, doesn't have the world's best AA. However, against torpedo bombers, because you do have that really nice torpedo damage reduction, it does allow her to survive against torpedo bombers in situations where if you were in other cruisers, you'd most likely die. So, early on, caught in not the world's best position, enemy carrier does manage to catch me, and as you can tell, my HP is not all that great. I do have defensive fire up, and you can tell I'm not shooting down that many planes, but take a look. The damage reduction is actually quite good. Right? Able to E3 torpedoes and not look all that shabby. By the way, the CV really wanted to get me, because a little bit later on, after another unsuccessful attack, this was the 3rd one, I believe, from the 3rd wave of torpedo bombers from a midway. Okay, defensive fire is engaged again. Initially focusing on one squadron. This squadron is going to come in and go for the drop. And as soon as this one I notice I'm probably going to dodge it, I have the targeting onto the other squadron. This one's going to come in and it's going to catch me on the side. Once again, good torpedo damage reduction, and I'm okay. Right? I didn't even take a flooding there too, so... Anyways, one of the, I would say, advantages, the strengths of the Kronshtadt, but when weighed against her weaknesses are right now overwhelming. Anyways, to sum it all up, Kronshtadt in her current iteration is a ship in dire need of some help. I'm glad that she is in her work in progress state, like I mentioned earlier, and that this is the first iteration that we've gotten. So, hopefully, she's going to get some things changed around. Like I said, she doesn't have to have everything, right? She doesn't have to have the old HP pull back again. But, you know, she should be at least... She doesn't have to be, like, the most comfortable ship to play. She can have some skill cap, but she shouldn't be a frustrating sort of ship to play. You shouldn't be playing her and going, well, you know, who cares about my skill? It's all RNG based and, you know, whatnot. She should at least have that element where you feel like, yes, if you play it right, she will be able to reward you. And like I said, it could be anything from dispersion changes to maybe the sigma changes to make her guns just a little bit more consistent, so when you are able to get into those flanking positions, you can hit really hard. The alternative could just be make the guns a little bit more consistent, maybe a small sigma buff without changing the horizontal dispersion, but maybe bring her back up with that bulk that she had before. Alternatively, maybe either buff HE a little bit, although that's not the ideal solution. Maybe change the way her shells are for her AP. Maybe improved auto bounce angles, so you can keep this sort of not great dispersion, keep it with the cruiser HP pool, but maybe make a change that way, so you make it so that her AP is a lot more consistent. A lot of things that can potentially be done to make the Kronshtadt a better ship and, you know, a little bit more playable. So we'll have to see how that goes. Anyways, current opinion is, yikes, not very good. In desperate need of some help. And as for the best battle I've ever had damage-wise, this is it. A meager 118,000 damage. One of only 2 battles I had that was over 100,000. Not very good at all. Anyways, hopefully the Buffalo is going to impress me a little bit more. I'll have a video for all of you about that ship soon. So take care of yourselves, have a good one, and I'll talk to all of you again really, really soon.